these are just a basic carbon fiber socket, and this is a waterproof sleeve that's over it. I just slide the sleeve on, and then most triathletes aren't going to really use their legs that much. They want to save them for the bike and the run, so I'm not at that great a disadvantage. I finished about in the middle of the pack on the run. Time in the water was 44 minutes for the first loop and 1:35 for the whole 2.4 miles. The next thing I kind of transition into is, here's my biking leg, and it has a sleeve, but it doesn't really matter that it's kind of waterproof. It's more for just kind of keeping my knee stabilized. But it has a carbon fiber socket, and then it actually has on the bottom of it an SPD cleat, like a regular mountain bike cleat, because that's the easiest thing to kind of get in and out of. Which obviously, if you go over the handlebars at 25 miles an hour, it doesn't really matter what kind of cleat you're in, you're not going to get out of that too fast. So when people were asking me about the accident, and I said, well, what happened was the chain came off my big ring, locked in the middle, and lodged in the middle of the big ring and the little ring, and it locked up. So when I went to do my pedal stroke down, my momentum and the speed that I was going actually carried me over. So I landed like, WWF wrestlers body slammed me, and it kind of felt like that. Obviously, if I was able to fracture a bone off my back, so it kind of felt that way. But anyway, this is my running prosthesis. And I normally wear a sleeve like this, and the way it's actually, to get to your question, the way it's actually held on is at the end of the bottom of my walking prosthesis, it's held on by suction, and there's a small little hole at the end of the bottom of my prosthesis that actually it's a one-way valve. It blows air out. So as maybe I lose volume during the day, and it creates kind of a space in the prosthetic socket, it's blowing air out, and so that makes it that much more, adheres to my skin that much more. But again, these running prosthetics are the carbon fiber. The feet are made out of carbon fiber, the sockets are made out of carbon fiber, and this is held on. Normally, I would have a sleeve on it for running, and it's held on that way.
How much does that weigh?
It's pretty light. It's probably 2-point-something pounds, 2.2 pounds probably. And then this weighs a little bit more just because it has a little bit more hardware on it.
In one of your articles, you were talking about it when you started training, you started losing weight, and you lost weight in your legs. Now, does that air adjust? I don't remember.
That's actually why I had to go to. That's why I had to go to it's called an expulsion system. And meaning that it just has a one-way valve where it blows air out. What I was trying to do back in March was I was trying to set another world record on being able to be the first below the knee doubling to complete a full marathon. Nobody had ever gone but just a half marathon. Well, I had been training so much for this Ironman that I actually lost body fat, and so my sockets weren't really fitting well. And so I show up at this race, obviously there's no pressure for me to finish this race because there's helicopters flying over. They announce that I'm trying to do a world record there, and the news media's there. I'm running literally in the race. People, I saw you on TV, and so I'm like, I hope I can finish. And so anyway, but what happened was, but we get to mile 6, and inside my sockets, I'm actually using a pin system, where it would be like, just imagine a sock with a pin inside the silicone sock, and this pin would fit inside this socket, and this would have a little release valve. It just kind of latches in there. Well, the pin caused this pistoning action on my leg, and so I used to use a pin for my normal walking legs, pin for my biking legs, pin for my running legs. And it was just a lot of pulling on the end of my leg, and my leg had just gotten very tender. I had lost a lot of body fat just training for the Ironman, and then my leg started to kind of shuffle inside the socket. Well, by mile 6, I was bleeding like crazy, which I didn't really know, but I was bleeding on the end of my leg, and so I stopped at mile 6. I dumped out a bunch of blood out of both legs, and and then finished, kept on going, and they got to mile 14. The kind of crazy thing about that is I had my best half marathon time at 2:05. By the half marathon time, I was bleeding like crazy, but I still had a 2:05 running. And so then I got to mile 22, well actually mile 14, did another blood dump, and this lady was nice enough, she thought I was dehydrated, she handed me a bottle of water and I poured it on my leg, and blood's just, kind of going down the sidewalk. She about passed out. I just put my legs back on, wiped my legs back on, and kept on going. We get to mile 22, and then I have another blood dump, and then a good friend of mine who is the race director for that race, she's very sadistic, and she created mile 22 through mile 26 to be all uphill. So anyway, I finished the uphill run there, and I finished in 5:04 marathon after 35 minutes without the blood out of my legs. So we knew that we had to go to a different type of system than we were doing. So that's why we went to not using pins and just using socket expulsion system. Yeah.
What kind of bike do you ride?
I rode it. I was riding a Scout Plasma, and actually, now I'm riding it's called Beyond Fabrications. It's beyondfab.com. And basically what happened was, like I said, I couldn't afford a bike, so I borrowed a bike from a guy from church, and then that was my first race. And then I went to Roswell Bicycles in Atlanta and said, hey, can you help me out with a bike? So they gave me a bike that was actually too small for me. So I rode that for a couple months, and then I actually got a bike, which you saw in the videos, got Plasma, and then actually that was I went to the guys at Georgia Tech, and they said they spent 11 hours with me and tried to they have a prosthetics program there, and then they have an engineering program there, and so they spent all this time with me getting me efficient, but they had to shorten my legs by 4 inches. So I've now got a frame that's kind of too large for me. So finally, after the Ironman, this guy who makes his own bikes from San Francisco was actually there and said, hey, why don't you ride one of my bikes? I'll actually give you a frame that will actually fit you. So for the first time, I'm riding a bike, and I'm averaging 20 miles an hour on the bike and on rides and stuff like that. And am now, for the first time, not only efficient, but actually can pick up some speed on the bike. So I've got a top trough frame, and then I ride with regular road handlebars, because one of the things we found out from the testing is that at least for me, and I think other double amputees, the way we have not only one dead spot, but we have 2 dead spots, is that we lose a lot of efficiency when we get in the air position. So we ride more in kind of an upright position. Yeah.
Aside from flipping over your handlebars to stop, how do you do it? How do you stop if you're clipped into your pedals on your bike? Do you have somebody catch you at the end?
A wing and a prayer. I don't have any trouble clipping in and clipping out. It was just that was kind of a
okay. So you actually are able to clip in and
I clip in and out. I ride it just like everybody else. I clip in and push off, and then when I stop, if I'm going to stop at the dismount line, then I just kind of go ahead and clip out ahead of time. Or if I'm in a group ride, then I'll go ahead and clip out a little bit early and just stick the end of my, my feet onto the pedals. So, but it's not a big deal clipping in and out unless you're, going 25 miles an hour handlebars. Yeah.
Does that give you any kind of spring action when you're running? Does it like bend, give you any kind of?
It gives a little. It doesn't give like a spring like one of those kind of kangaroo or something like that. It didn't give that, but it does give some energy. You're not hitting. Yeah, I would say 80%. It's probably 80% energy return as opposed to where you're like if you're running, you're getting 240%. So to some degree, I'm that kind of a disadvantage for a guy that's my build running. I'm at that kind of disadvantage.